the Pokemon trading card game is something I never really understood as a kid. And now, here I am at the ripe old age of 29, diving right back into the fray. To keep things interesting, I'm going to stick to buying sealed product. No trades, no singles, no easy way out. With a budget of just $50 a week, I'm going to build the best competitive deck I can, and see how it stacks up against the pros. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're 12 episodes into this thing, and I think I'm finally getting the hang of this children's card game. Sure, the deck really needs more than just a few bird keepers to take advantage of everything that Darkness Ablaze and the previous sets have to offer, but I suppose at this point I can't complain too much. I'm definitely embracing the make do with what you have philosophy, and it's a testament to how good the base Pikachu and Zekrom League Battle deck was in how I'm at least able to have a fighting chance against some of the big bad decks in this very threatening metagame. Now, I'm constantly stewing on how to improve the deck, and it's strange that I keep coming back to things like Zapdos and Hoopa when I previously thought that they were basically filler in the League Battle deck. I mean, I know Zapdos was the big boss of its own deck archetype back in the day, and sure, Hoopa is a card that seems to find longevity in the many niches it fills as a one-prize attacker, but man, I didn't expect myself to be leaning into these cards quite as much. When I first got them, really, I thought I am going to chuck these right away, but here they are, still with me 12 episodes in. Now, it could just be that I'm getting desperate because I can't seem to find my critical two-prize attackers like Tapu Koko V or Vikavolt V, or maybe this is the universe trying to tell me that one-prizers might be the way to go, and that I have to make do with what I've got. Now, I'm not sure if there are many other useful one-prize attackers we could pull in. There has been some talk about the non-V Boltund, I believe from Rebel Clash, the one with 160 damage output for 3 lightning energy and a free retreat cost. It is a nice way to avoid the auto loss to Decidueye and Obstagoon, but I don't know that I see those decks enough right now to sacrifice the precious slots for even a 1-1 line, let alone a 2-2 line. So really looking at it, maybe Zapdos and Hoopa are enough. 80 damage for 1 energy is still really useful in the early game, and Hoopa can swing for big damage when Eternatus stacks the bench. And I have seen it teched into a number of top meta decks in order to combat things like Decidueye and Mad Party. Now, that said, I do wish there was another good one-prize attacker we can throw in, but it might just be a case of waiting for Vivid Voltage to come out and see what support there is for lightning decks therein. So, all that aside, outside of some weird miracle from this week's packs, I suspect the deck is probably not going to change too much. And, I know the odds are low because, once again, packs of anything older than Rebel Clash are scarce on the ground, so really, it's not like we're going to be going back and digging, unfortunately, for things like our Crushing Hammers or that Tapu Koko V. Really, we're just going to have to get down to cracking more packs of Darkness Ablaze this week and praying we get one of the 2 cards out of the entire set that we're looking for. So that said, let's go crack some packs. Ladies and gents, it is another rainy day. I have another 9 packs of Darkness Ablaze. Damn, I really should have just bought a box of the Sword and Shield and Darkness Ablaze 2-packs. I think that would have been the smart thing to do and just space them out for the series, but what can I do? I'm trying to be strict about the budget a little bit anyways. Maybe I don't have the best foresight in the world. But hey, we'll make do with what we got. We got another 9 packs of the Darkness Ablaze, so a good chance, hopefully, to pull Vikavolt V and Crobat V. God, yeah, I don't even know how many packs we're in now, but hopefully we can get something useful because I am tired of having weeks where we're literally just adding a bird keeper to the deck. That is beginning to wear on my soul a little bit. So without further ado, let's jump in, crack some packs, and see if we can finally get something to give our Pikarom the desperate, you know, boost it needs, because it is just a weird duck deck now in the format, and I'm starting to worry that we just can't keep up with the Pokemon V decks as the meta is developing now. I mean, we're losing in practice matches to Inteleon. Hey! Eternatus V. One step closer to sealed only Eternatus. Okay, off to a good start. Off to a good start. Ooh. At least for the binder. At least for the binder. I don't know. Maybe we should just play a Eternatus Pikarom hybrid deck, except that would totally not work. But what can you do? Okay, Lightning Energy, Combuskin, Pupitar, Corvisquire, Nickit, Bonsweet, Snubble, Meltan, Bunnelby, Corvisquire, and Salamence VMAX. Again, a beautiful, beautiful pull, but we can't use them. We do not even have a Salamence V. I have seen some people do like an Electromence build of Salamence VMAX, like using Tapu Koko to accelerate the energy and all that. So if I could get a Salamence V, I might actually try and slip the line in there in order to just have like a different attacker spike with another bird keeper. Look at that. Steenee, Sentret, Rowlet, Squovit, Spinarak, Larvesta, Reversal Staravia, and a Muck. Lord have mercy. But yeah, if I can pull a Salamence V out of one of these packs, and then get them on PTCGO, then I will definitely throw them in. I think if anything, just for the lulz, honestly. But to give us a big attacker that's not so reliant on being a GX, right? Corvisquire, Lunatone, Struggle Gloves, Jigglypuff, Ducklet, Carablast, Glaring Darumaka, Larvitar, Reversal Glaring Darumaka, and a Volcarona. I actually expected to see a lot more fighting decks. I do see more Phalanx V on the ladder when I'm not playing with Pikarom, but that's not a fight we can win anyways. So, yeah, I don't know. I am kind of wondering, you know, the resurgence of like fighting decks or whatever. It's not really happening just yet. Psychic Energy, Glimwood Tangle, Lairon, Simipour, Nickit, Shelmet, Larvitar, Grimer, Glaring Darumaka, Panpour, and the Heal Block Mimikyu. 4 packs left. Come on. Honestly, I will take a Salamence V. I know it's weird. I know it's not exactly super consistent with the deck because we would have to sub in like a Pokemon communication to search it, but I don't know. It would give us some interesting options, you know? Teddiursa, Rookidee, Torchic, Trapinch, Heatran, Swanna. Bubkiss. Am happy to see that VMAX though. That is very cool. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on, can you get a Crobat or a Vikavolt? Water Energy, Simipour, Lunatone, Dartrix, Dino, no Hydreigon, Passimian. Hey, I think we got a place at a Bunnelby now. Gothita, Glaring Darmanitan, and ooh! Oh, that is a nice one for the binder, and potentially for the deck. A gold Turbo Patch. Again, we need the Vikavolt or something else to use it with, but yeah, not bad. It'll fetch a pretty penny at least if we want to like sell stuff after in order to make back a bit of the cost of the series. That's always an option too. Let's see. Darkness Energy, Heatfire, Sincere, Dugtrio, Pansage, Tauros, Diglett, Squovit, Shelmet, Darkrai, and finally Hydreigon. Okay, now if we want to play Dark, we have an option. And last pack, ladies and gents. Oh my God. Okay. 1 Hydreigon. Was that 4? I don't know. No, it wasn't. Big Parasol, Shiinotic, Rose, Snubble, Tauros, Rookidee, Glaring Mr. Mime, Electrike, Reversal Azuelus, and Melmetal, Grass Energy. Okay. Will be relevant when we get Vikavolt or Salamence V. Will be relevant if we get a Salamence V. Always awesome. Hasn't been that useful. guess we're just adding another one of those. God help me, ladies and gents. God help me. You know, as much as I want to be salty about basically just having another bird keeper to sub in, I can't complain about pulling a golden turbo patch or a Salamence VMAX. I don't know that either quite fit in, but both are ridiculously cool cards to have. Actually, you know what? I am thinking that, and this is a little out there, but if I can pull a Salamence V in one of the upcoming pack openings for, one of the next few episodes, or if I can even get one more turbo patch, which I think will give us the playset, I will see about teching them in only for 1 week, because we're not about to make a Salamence VMAX Pikarom deck. I think I've got a better chance of pulling Vikavolt, finally, to be honest. But hey, let's see. That's what we'll do. If I can grab a Salamence V, we will throw in the 1/1 line just for the hell of it. And anyway, this deck. Not much has changed. We've got our playset of Bird Keeper, finally, so that's cool, I guess. Really, I am actually happy that we have 4 Bird Keepers, because while Mallow and Lana was cool and had been a staple in my deck for a long time, I'm starting to find that the healing aspect is less and less useful as the meta develops, because most of the time, the damage you're healing off is irrelevant because you're just getting bossed and killed next turn by a 270 damage hit in a lot of cases. So really, instead of having to discard valuable resources for inconsequential healing on a switch, I would rather just switch and see more resources. Oh, and I've dropped the energy count down to 14 on the recommendation of Zekrom Tuber because, yeah, 15 energy is a bit much. I think my paranoia about bricking and not ever seeing enough lightning energy early on had me running a crazy high count at 15. But really, I think the 3 speed lightning energy and an 11 count of the basic lightning energy is enough to get the mileage out of Full Blitz and even Boltund's Bolt Storm throughout the game. So, yeah, there it is. I wonder how many people on the ladder are going to think I'm a noob when I roll up with the Zapdos and Hoopa in my deck, but who knows? Maybe we can use that to our advantage. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump into game 1 and see how we do. We've got some very interesting decks on the docket this week, and we are starting off with a really weird Galarian Stunfisk and Butterfree deck. Yeah, you heard that right. Galarian Stunfisk and Butterfree. So my opponent leads with the Galarian Stunfisk, while I get stuck with a Pikarom in the active, which is what you never want on the first turn of the game. I also don't have anything to evacuate Pikarom from the active, so really I can just grab a Zapdos with a Quickball, attach an energy, and pray that I can do something next turn. On my opponent's turn, they drop the Quickball and search out a Crobat, slapping it down for 2 cards after manually attaching a Grass Energy to the active. And then I get hit with a very welcome Marnie, followed by a failed Crushing Hammer. My turn comes up and I slap a Big Charm onto Pikarom, mostly because that Stunfisk can sting you for 120 damage if you attack into it, and I'm not about to get 2KO'd by an ugly land flatfish thing like that. I also establish a Boltund and search out Dedenne to see some fresh cards. Unfortunately, I don't get a switch, so I have to settle for attaching to Boltund and passing. On my opponent's turn, they get very lucky and have 2 Crushing Hammers go through, which they then follow up with that Snaptrack attack, dealing 60 and ensuring that if I attack into the Stunfisk, I get slapped for 120 on my turn. Now back on my turn, I immediately throw down an Electromagnetic Radar to search for another Dedenne. I need to draw out of the really bad hand I have and establish more energy on the board, and I really need to get Pikarom out of the active. So I grab Dedenne and throw it down right away, seeing a Bird Keeper off of it. I bring up Boltund with the Bird Keeper and draw into more energy, thankfully. I use a Quickball to get Tapu Koko Prism Star, and I pop Dance of the Ancients to power up Pikarom and Zapdos. Then, I decide to go for the Electrify in order to further charge Pikarom, but also to prime Boltund for some big Bolt Storms later on. On my opponent's turn, the accursed Butterfree comes down by way of a rare candy, and my Zapdos is actually bossed up and smacked for 60 damage by the Stunfisk. I slap down the Speed Lightning Energy on Boltund, seeing more energy and more switching options. I decide to just use an energy switch to get a lightning energy off of Zapdos and onto Dedenne, where it can stay in play in order to ensure that Bolt Storm is doing as much damage as possible. My opponent goes straight for the KO, allowing me to bring up my Boltund again, and this time I slap down a lightning energy on Dedenne and go for the Bolt Storm, getting a one-hit KO, but also eating 120 damage for my troubles. My opponent slaps down a Grass Energy and goes for the Panic Poison with their Butterfree, stacking quite a bit of passive damage onto Boltund, but I'm not really worried because I have 4 switching options in my hand. And obviously on my turn, I send Pikachu flying into the active with Bird Keeper, and my opponent knows the jig is up, so they scoop. And that puts me one more over that goddamn Butterfree. Yes! Next up, we're against the Alice in Wonderland inspired Mad Party. This is actually a really bad matchup for Pikachu because they have a bunch of single prizers who can slap for 200 plus damage pretty quickly and for a relatively cheap energy cost. Naturally, I start out very poorly with an Eldegoss V in the active, right up against a Bunnelby. I already know that if my opponent can discard enough Mad Partiers on their first turn, they can easily KO my Puffball. But I know if they don't, I can do something kind of cute. So I drop the Electromagnetic Radar to search for Dedenne, and then I attach a Lightning Energy to Eldegoss before using my Dedenne change. I get nothing useful, so I just have to pass. Now, as Mad Party does, my opponent begins a long chain of searching and discarding in order to power up his Mad Party attack. Now, my hope here is that, like a lot of people who are currently playing Mad Party on the ladder, my hope is that my opponent doesn't really know how to pilot Mad Party, and that he'll just end up burning through his resources in trying to get this first big KO. Now, if my opponent is disciplined, my goose is probably cooked. I am constantly checking the discard pile as he dumps more and more and more, and, stacks his hand as well. He also gets another Bunnelby on board, threatening, for the follow-up Mad Party attack, as well as a Sinistea to eventually get into that Poltergeist draw engine. But ultimately, with everything he's done this turn, playing his supporters and all that, he can only smack me for 100 damage. Back on my turn, I attach another Lightning Energy to Eldegoss, and then throw down a Marnie to deny him all those cards he just drew. I get a Boltund off of the Marnie, which isn't great, but it is enough to avoid getting donked pretty quickly after. So I slap down the Boltund, and then I go for the Float Up, KOing the Bunnelby and returning my Eldegoss and those energies to the deck where they are safe and sound. Then I promote Boltund with a Big Charm attached, praying that my opponent can't do 240 damage for the knockout. Now, with Eldegoss safely out of the way, my plan is basically to charge up a Dedenne with the Boltund and hopefully a Zapdos or a Hoopa in order to start KOing the Mad Partiers and hopefully get the prize race in my favor. But I also know that if I lose Boltund early, the jig is probably up. Now, my opponent keeps burning through their deck, threatening to KO me with their Bunnelby, but ultimately, they only get enough Mad Partiers in the discard pile in order to hit me for 160. Back on my turn, I throw down the Professor's Research and mercifully get a Hoopa on the board. I go for the Electrify to charge it up and attach an energy to the Dedenne, and now while I know the doggo is doomed, I also know that this is my best shot of getting myself out of a bad situation, so really I just have to accept the inevitable KO. My opponent, of course, establishes their Poltergeists and, naturally, smashes me for 180 damage, KOing Boltund. So now I send up to Dedenne, and I try my second cutesy maneuver of the game. Knowing that I need to get another multi-prizer off of my board, I attach a Lightning Energy to the Dedenne, and go for the Tingly Return GX. KOing the Bunnelby and getting Dedenne safely into my hand. I can then send up my Jirachi and wait for my opponent to do as they may, but at least now I know if I lose any Pokemon, I'm only losing one prize. They actually send up their own Dedenne with an air balloon, and then pivot into Poltegeist. They also slap me with a Marnie for good measure, but, you know, that means no bossing up my precious Hoopa this turn, so fantastic, go for it. They then go for the KO on my Jirachi, which, quite frankly, is just fine. I bring up Hoopa, and then I'm able to establish a Zapdos on board. I grab another Jirachi with a Quickball, and then slap down my own Marnie. Everything looking good, I go for the Evil Admonition on the Poltegeist, and because of the two Poltegeist and the Dedenne in play, I do more than enough damage to get the KO. I also know that now, with Zapdos and Jirachi on the bench, I have enough resources in order to KO the new Sinistea when it comes up. Outside of a Bunnelby maybe coming down, my opponent really doesn't have much else to plow me over with. Now with Jirachi and Zapdos on the bench, I know that I've got enough resources on hand to KO the next Sinistea when it comes up, and outside of maybe grabbing another Bunnelby, my opponent doesn't really have much else to plow me over with. So my opponent actually just sees it fit to toss another Poltegeist with a Quickball, and yeah, bring up the new Sinistea and go for the Mad Party to KO my Hoopa. On my turn, I bring up Jirachi and go for the Stellar Wish, critically grabbing a switch for next turn, and then I use Birdkeeper to fly into the active with Zapdos and use Thunderous Assault to get the KO. My opponent sends up Dedenne, and they deliberate for a while, probably looking to see what attackers they have left. I suspect by now the fourth Bunnelby is probably prized, and I think they realize that too. So after thinking about it some more, they finally scoop. Our final game today pits Pikarom against its spiritual twin, Reshizard. I start with Jirachi, while my opponent naturally leads with Volcanion. I'm made to go first, of course, so it's my job to prep as best as I can for the Reshizard that I know is going to be supercharged in just a few turns. For me, that means getting Zapdos into play so that I can attack into the Reshizard without losing 3 prizes, and then of course follow it up with Pikarom or Boltund. Now, I think my opponent had a pretty bad hand because instead of throwing down the Reshizard, they actually just Professor's Research away their entire hand, including a Welder. And they follow that up by just attaching and passing turn. On my turn, I slap a Boltund V down, looking for an efficient attacker versus the incoming Reshizard, and I also throw down a Pikarom now that I know my opponent's energy acceleration won't be quite as fast. I bring up the Zapdos and actually equip it with a Big Charm in order to avoid a potential KO by the Volcanion, and of course, I smack it for 80. On my opponent's turn, they throw down the Giant Hearth, and then Welder onto the active Volcanion, which is super confusing for me. They then play Attack Call, finally searching for Reshizard, as well as a Mallow and Lana. The Reshizard comes down, followed by another Volcanion, and then oddly enough, my opponent attaches to the active Volcanion and then attacks for 110 damage. I'm confused, but I also see an opportunity to stall here. So instead of going for the easy KO on the active Volcanion and loading the discard pile with fire energies, which my opponent can grab back with fire crystals, I decide to boss up the fresh Volcanion, forcing them to either burn a switching card or commit to an attack with that one, thus diverting a bit more energy away from Reshizard. My opponent actually falls for this and even does me the solid of gusting up Jirachi with Pokemon Catcher. They then attach an energy to the active Volcanion and Flare Starter to the active Volcanion instead of Reshizard. And now, looking at the situation, I can tell that my new plan is coming together pretty well. I know that if I can get off a Full Blitz and swarm the field with energy at this point, I can probably prime a Boltund V for an Oko on the Reshizard, because usually when you're attacking into Reshizard with Pikarom, it tends to be a losing battle, especially when they can smack you for, 230 damage easily, possibly as high as 300 if they hit a couple Welders in a row. So Jirachi gets me a Quick Ball, which of course gets a Dedenne into my hand. I go for the Dedenne change and see another Quick Ball and an energy. So I attach to Pikarom and use Birdkeeper to send Zapdos up, and then I actually get a Tapu Koko Prism Star off of the draw effect of Birdkeeper, and that means that pretty soon Pikarom is going to be live. So I use another Quickball to get another energy into the discard pile, and I grab a Dedenne for next turn. And then I just go for Thunderous Assault again, dealing 80 damage. My opponent does use the Mallow and Lana, but they omit the healing effect, and then send in the Supercharged Volcanion. My opponent finally attaches an energy to Reshizard, and then gets the KO on my Zapdos with the High Heat Blast. On my turn, I bring up Jirachi, and then I throw down the Raichu, anticipating that I'm probably going to have to go for some kind of stun play on the Reshizard if I can't muscle through it right away. I pop Dance the Ancients to fully charge Pikarom, and at least get the Raichu on its way. Then I switch into Pikarom and slap down the Marnie, getting another energy, which I actually attach to Boltund. Finally, I go for the full blitz to KO the active Volcanion, and then I accelerate, I think, my final 3 basic lightning energies onto the Raichus, priming my paralysis play. My opponent sends up their last Volcanion, and then plays a Tag Call to no effect. A Vitality Band, oddly enough, comes down onto the Volcanion, and then my opponent pitches a Welder with Quickball to grab one more Volcanion. They then slap me for 60 damage, so okay. On my turn, I Birdkeeper up the Raichus and take an easy KO, realistically just because I don't want Pikarom to be in the active when that Reshizard finally flies in. You know, I would rather the Raichus eat the Flare Strike than Pikarom. My opponent sends up their third Volcanion and then recovers some energy with the Fire Crystal. They attach to the Volcanion and then grab 2 more energy with Giant Hearth, before finally using Flare Starter to attach energy to their Reshizard. On my turn, I pop Jirachi in with a switch, and then pop the Raichus back in to get the Tandem Shot KO. My opponent finally sends up their Reshizard, and does actually Welder to it in order to slam me for 230 damage. But, like I said, the Raichus can take the hit, unlike Pikarom. My opponent is actually threatening the Double Blaze GX by attaching a 5th energy before going for the big Flare Strike, but at this point, I'm not really concerned. I know I'm not getting KO'd this turn. So on my turn, I just attach a Speed Lightning energy to Dedenne, and then pop Boltund V into the active, and go for a massive Bolt Storm, dealing 340 damage to the Reshizard for a clean 1-hit KO. And with that electrifying burst, we bring our final game to an end. Okay, what an interesting set of games. It's always nice when Pikarom doesn't have to take center stage, if only because it means that my deck isn't dead in the water if I lose my one and only boss monster. Also, it's just fantastic to make things like Zapdos and Hoopa put in some serious work against a crazy deck like Mad Party, especially given how bad of a matchup that is for a deck like mine. Now, yes, like I said before, I know I'm kind of late in singing the praises of Zapdos, and while it might not be the star of its own deck anymore, I think it's proven that, you know, it deserves a spot in my deck going forward. I don't see myself needing to swap it out anytime soon. And I mean, look, with all the Bird Keepers and its general utility as a cheap attacker, I think, yeah, it does deserve the space. Now, Hoopa, I'm still pretty impressed with too, although I can see myself filling that spot, you know, with something else, like Vikavolt V, if a more compelling option comes around. Now, I should also say that Boltund was a very good doggo this time around. Hitting for 340 damage is something that even Eternatus can only dream of outside of when it's hitting for weakness. And when is it hitting for weakness? Because Dragapult is extinct. Oh man, I really wish I had 2 Boltund V. I really, really wish I did. Because honestly, it's a great way to accelerate energy when you don't want to have to pay the 3 energy cost for a full blitz. And, you know, he is a very efficient attacker in his own right, dealing a ton of damage and just giving up 2 prizes as opposed to 3 in return. But anyway, all that aside, I'm just going to end the episode here on a high note. We got some decent polls, we had some decent games, and all around it was a really fun time. So, if you guys haven't already, please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. I am actually happy to say that your support has already, and I say this tentatively because YouTube is fickle and things always change, but at the moment, we're the #1 Pokemon sealed only channel on YouTube, which sure isn't saying much given how small the pond is, but it does wonders for my ego to see how far the show has come in just a couple of months, I think. Sure, there's still a long way to go, but I know with all of you out there and how dedicated, the subscribers I have are so far, making some big gains is not going to be an issue at all. Okay, so all the sappy stuff and humble bragging aside, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for another one next week. Send me some good vibes because we would like to continue to get some amazing polls next week. And, beyond that,